Alright guys, we're going to take a quick look at the preview for the new arc. I appreciate it is a little bit silly to be breaking down and analysing 15 seconds of something we're going to be seeing in a week anyway, but it's fun to make predictions, and if I turn out to be right, well, I get to feel good about myself, and that's always fun. So before we get into things, I just want to make one thing clear. This is almost certainly not from an episode. It's very likely the new opening for the series. I believe it's called Limit Break Survivor, so that should be fun. I've enjoyed Chozetsu dynamic for the most part, but I am so tired of seeing Goku and Vegeta beat up generic Frieza thugs every week that I'm kind of ready to move on. So let's jump right in. We open up with this Kabe and Frost transformation scene, and honestly, this is probably one of the only scenes in the preview that I don't have any real guesses for. Like, I have guesses, but they're not based on anything other than things that might just be coincidence. For example, Kabe's ear shape is very similar to the type of ears you see from Shimanuki when he's correcting other animators. But then we move to Frost, and we get a nose that's a lot like the kind of thing you see from Takeo Ide, so I'm a bit lost with this bit, but honestly that's quite exciting. I can't wait to see the staff list, and especially who's supervising, because that has been a bit of a mystery, sort of, but we'll get to that later. Moving on, we have the scene that everyone's talking about. It is, of course, the female Broly lookalike. This is more than likely animated by Naoki Tate, and actually, Tate is all over this preview. I get the feeling this is why his work in episode 72 was so iffy. He has at least 3 scenes in this preview alone, so trying to do all of that on top of an episode is definitely tough. Now, the reason I say that this is probably Tate is down to a few factors actually. So firstly, it's her fist shape just before she transforms. Tate likes to do these sort of half-closed fists. I think one of the big examples is Hit in episode 38. So from there you have Tate's lean thing that I've spoken about in the past, you know, the whole momentum thing I was talking about recently. Well, I say recently, it was about a month ago. I suck at making videos, I'm sorry. But anyway, characters tend to sort of fall into their movement. Next, you have the general muscle shape. Even though this has been corrected to add a little bit more detail, it looks very much how Tate used to draw Toriko's muscles when he worked on that show. All of this combined with the timing of the cut, I'm pretty sure that it's him. Either way, this next cut is absolutely 100% without a doubt him. It hasn't been corrected at all. Both Omni Kings and the Great Priest are drawn in his recognizable style, and of course it has many of the traits we mentioned above. Notice how they kind of fall into their spin, and if we pause we can see those distinctive motion lines. Once the Great Priest pops up, again more familiar stuff, this time in the form of the effects work that has defined much of Tate's work for many years now. I'm going to skip over these stills since there's nothing really worth talking about from an animation perspective, so let's move on to our chestnut-headed friend. This is a very short cut, but I think it might be Shuichiro Manabe. The ears are very similar, and the effects work reminds me a lot of what we saw in episode 63. Of course, it's so short that it's hard to say anything definitively, but if I had to make a guess, then I would say Manabe. This next part with Vegeta is a bit like the opening for me. I'm a bit lost. I'm sure I'll make sense of it once I have a staff list, or maybe if the cut's longer then something will stand out, but off the top of my head, I don't recognize that timing at all. The character art is so on model that there's really no defining features there either. I'm going to be really curious to see who this turns out to be. Next up, we have very obviously Naoki Tate again, though this time around it appears he's being corrected by whoever's supervising. The most logical name to bring up is Tadayoshi Yamamuro, who supervised the last opening and of course did the recent movies. The thing is, Yamamuro has been weirdly absent for a little while, and his corrections tend to be quite severe, though I guess less so recently, so I mean maybe it is, I don't know. Either way, you can see the typical Tate stuff in here in spite of those corrections. You've got the great exaggerated face on the Wolfman, you've got the large lower lip on Goku, there's the ear shape, and of course the general effects and movement are so Tate that there's really no doubt here. But that's it, 15 seconds long, and yet so much is crammed in there. I can't wait to see the full thing considering how much Tate is in there. I think at this point you all know how much I adore that man's animation. But yeah, of course, once it's out I'll do a proper breakdown of things if I need to, but until then, I think that's about all I can cover. Let me know what your expectations are of the upcoming arc in the comment section below. Check out my triple staff roundup from yesterday if you missed it, and I will see you next time.